The Florida Gators are traveling to Kyle Field this Saturday to take on the Texas A&M Aggies. They are a 8.5 point underdog, which is really interesting. I'm assuming it was a lot more before yesterday. This Texas A&M team has been rolling. I will say this. They have looked pretty vulnerable the past couple of games. They had a 16-10 win at Kyle Field. They've had 3 home games in a row, by the way, counting this Gator one here. But they also then have to go 3 weeks in a row on the road, which is going to be a fun stretch of games for them. But yeah, they played Auburn right after that Notre Dame game. Get a win 16-10 in a dogfight down there. Mississippi State then comes to Kyle Field as well yesterday. And it's another dogfight, and it was very, very close, but then Texas A&M started to pull away late with some of their explosive plays. But that's another very close game there for Texas A&M. So, obviously had a big win against Notre Dame, a couple of cupcakes early on, and the defense seems like they've gotten a lot better. But this is a team that is vulnerable. They're not like this unstoppable, group that you can't contain. Obviously, offensively, led by Marcel Reed, who is having a really, really solid year at quarterback. Definitely his best passing year. 1,200 yards, 60% completion percentage, 9 yards a pass, and 11 passing touchdowns with 3 interceptions. The ground game has been great also for him, about 150 yards rushing, but has gotten sacked 6 times, so obviously that kind of takes that down a little bit. The run game, though, with Le'Veon Moss and Reuben Owens II, I think both these guys are NFL backs. They've both been playing really well. Owens with almost 300 yards and Le'Veon Moss with over 300 yards on the ground. So, yeah, a team that's very, very balanced when they want to be. They also have some weapons on the outside in Mario Craver and Casey Concepcion. Definitely weapons down the field. Casey's a really good slot guy, though, that can catch these short passes and make something out of nothing, basically. So, a guy to watch there. And then this Texas A&M defense is obviously really, really good, led by, one of the best defensive minds in college football, in my opinion. And they look pretty dominant this year. They do a really good job down and down, but they do let up pretty explosive plays there deep. So that's just something to think about, especially if we can kind of keep up this momentum that we have offensively and these explosive plays down the field with Dallas Wilson. I think this can really help out in this game. So down to down, decent defense. They've done a better job with explosive plays compared to last year. And they do have some big, big guys on the line. Overall, pretty solid team the whole way around. This was a team that I had making the quarterfinals in the playoff preseason, and they're definitely looking that way. So we'll see how they continue going forward. There is 2 old Gators, by the way, on this Texas A&M defense, which is pretty funny, and Scooby Williams and TJ Searcy. So just another thing to kind of put out there and add some, fuel to the fire. So, EJ, how do you think? Just give me your overview of this Texas A&M team. What do you think? What do you like? And then we'll start kind of getting into the specifics.
Texas A&M, when they play, they remind me a lot of Miami. They've got just great offensive line and defensive line play. And it just shows you when you have a good offensive line and good defensive line, you can win most of your games at the college level. And that's exactly what Elko preaches, praises, and has established at Texas A&M. This is a game where the Florida defense, and we talked about this also weeks ago. This is the one game where I said the Florida defense is probably going to have its worst game of the year. And not because they're not a good defense, but because when you play against a Texas A&M team that is multifaceted, meaning they are going to win most plays on offense. They're going to just gain yards. They're going to run for a few yards, even if they're going to throw it and you have it covered. Marcel Reed's going to run and gain 3 or 4 yards. When you think the pass is covered, it's going to bounce around and they're going to catch it. Their luck is, I think their luck rating is like one of the top in the nation.
PFF 94. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing that before this last game. It probably went up. That they, which just means that when you look at the Notre Dame game, which is, I think, a similar game as to how this one's going to go, the offense is going to have to score. We're going to have to keep the ball out of Marcel Reed's hands, keep the defense fresh, and score touchdowns in this game. Um, I think we can do it. If you go back to Texas A&M's game against Auburn, which was very interesting to me, they only won that game 16-10. Auburn was 0 of 13 on third downs, 0 of 2 on fourth downs, only gained 177 yards, only had 30 or no, 125 yards passing, 52 yards rushing, had 0 turnovers, but still only lost the game by 6 points. Why? The Auburn defense played a very conservative style, which is what Rob Roberts does. When you go back and look at that Notre Dame game, typically Notre Dame would play a very conservative style defense and force Texas A&M to have more plays. When you force them to have more plays, Marcel Reed is bound to make a mistake. He only is eight. I think DJ Lagway, believe it or not, has more completions this season than Marcel Reed does, which is insane. The thing now, he's thrown 7 interceptions, Lagway, 5 in one game. But you have to force this A&M team to have long drives, more plays, so that one of them is a mistake. If they're able to just line up and just bing, bang, boom right down the field, also, if you allow them to give up big plays because you're a little bit more aggressive on your defense, maybe you blitz. If you allow him to scramble out because you blitzed 5 or 6 guys, and now there's one-on-one, somebody's wide open. Craver or Concepcion is probably wide open. They're going to catch everything, and it's going to be great. Xavion Moss is also a highly rated running back, so he can catch out of the backfield. Keeping it conservative, keeping everything in front of you, forcing Marcel Reed to make reads and have long drives, I think is the way to go. But just Florida, when you get the ball, you're going to have to score. And Texas A&M's defense is really, really good, guys, but it doesn't scare me because the Florida offense has played multiple top 10 defenses already this season. LSU, Miami, Texas back to back. We've seen good defenses. We just have to bring a balanced attack. And if we're blocking punts now, the sky's the limit. So let's see what happens. No turnovers.
EJ, everything you said was on the dot, dude. That was literally it. That's everything I wanted to talk about. Let's talk about this Florida Gator offense versus this Texas A&M defense. I think that's going to be a very big thing here. It's probably going to be story of the game, like you were talking about, right? Yeah. I feel like Texas A&M is going to put up a certain amount of points, like you were talking about. I feel like this game is going to come down to Billy Napier for a lot of different reasons. Number one, can Billy Napier, bring the momentum from one week to the next? We saw it last year with LSU and Ole Miss, even going into Florida State. Can we finally see that this season, especially this early on in the season, right? Because we saw it last year, but it was already at the end of the year, so we couldn't really, build too much. Billy Napier has an amazing opportunity right now, not only to save his job, but to get this team in the right mindset to come in here, use that momentum from last week, and dominate. There's so many big games. There's so many playoff contenders still on this schedule, whether that is Texas A&M, whether that's Georgia. Even Ole Miss obviously is playing really, really well, and they have an opportunity. Tennessee, Florida State, you have a lot of big games coming up, a lot of big teams that are wanting to fight for the playoff spot. You have an opportunity to ruin their seasons and play really good football. So can Billy Napier get this offense where it needs to be? You made a really good point, EJ. You have to score. You have to. This Texas A&M offense is explosive. They're going to it's going to be like Texas yesterday, this past week. You're going to see them just throw super deep balls or have a big run with Le'Veon Moss like you were talking about on the outside, even maybe Marcel Reed escaping the pocket and going 45, 50 yards down the field, right? Being as agile and as fast as he is and capable to run the football. So you're going to have to help your defense out and take a little bit of the pressure off of them. Like I said, there are holes in this defense. One thing that Notre Dame did, EJ, when they played Texas A&M is they ran the hell out of the ball, dude. Jeremiah Love had let me look it up. I think it was 32 carries or something ridiculous in the game.
Yeah, he had 23 carries.
23, and then the backup also had a good amount of carries, right? Price.
Yeah.
I mean, it literally averaged up to 35 carries in total, something insane. They were really running the football, and they stuck to the run game. Big thing with Billy Napier. We talked about this earlier, EJ. Now that I don't know if Jacoby's coming back. I don't know what's going on with that. But if he does, I love Jacoby. I think he's phenomenal. But you need to feed Ball the ball. He's a guy who can break tackles. Here's a fun fact about A&M this year. Tackling's kind of been an issue. The good news for them is that they have a really good defense, a really well disciplined defense. Of course, once again, when you have that coach coaching, your guys are going to be very disciplined. But they come down the field very, very quick. When it's like Miami, every time you would throw a ball to the receiver in a screen or something, there's like 7 white helmets on that ball, taking the guy down. Texas A&M is very, very similar, but they have struggled tackling a little bit, and at certain points throughout this season. We need to take advantage of that. And a big way to do that is to get it in your playmakers' hands that can make guys miss. Jaden Ball is the definition of a guy who can break tackles. Also, too, Billy Napier's screen thing that he loves to run, his little screen plays, might actually work if they're set up right, which they usually aren't. But if he does set up these screens correctly, or get these guys in space, whether it's now Dallas Wilson or VB3 or even Trey Wilson, and get him on the outside in a one-on-one situation, that's also going to lead to success if you can make these guys miss tackles, because that has been an issue this year. That's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to stick to the run game, even if it's not looking great. Stick to the run game. I think this game overall, EJ, it's a very basic thing to say. It's not some, oh wow, look at me, ESPN take. The offensive line has to step up. They are going to be the story of this game. It's a very good Texas A&M defense. This pass rush on these guys on the outside, EJ, are monsters. Okay, they've done a really good job getting pressure on the quarterbacks. And so that means DJ Lagway's not going to have too much time in the pocket. And we said this last week, so maybe this offensive line might step up a little bit. What scares me, EJ, is the fact that DJ is not 100% healthy. We saw that. His foot is bothering him. It's not going to magically get better by the time this game goes on. My problem with that, EJ, is he's not going to be able to roll out as easy. So he's going to have to play within that pocket, which he did do against Texas and did very well. I just think this pass rush is even this is a proven pass rush, right? Against Texas, they had those 4 easy games in a row, whatever, 3 easy games in a row. You know what I mean? They had the 4 weeks to prep for us. They didn't have any game to go off of except for that Ohio State game. But now this is a proven Texas A&M defense. They've consistently gotten to the quarterback, consistently gotten pressure on guys, and so I am a little bit worried about that. But if they can open up some gaps in the run game like they did against Texas, if they can protect DJ Lagway enough to take some of these deep shots down the field, I think we're in a great position. What I'm worried about, EJ, and this is what I want to ask you and hand you the baton here: will Texas A&M do what Texas did? Or are they going to play that 8-man box like every other team that's beaten us has done? That's the question of the day, I think.
They've got 3 really dynamic defensive linemen. Searcy is low rated, but he's still really good on the end. You have corners who have given up some big plays. It's going to be difficult for Texas A&M to stack the box, even if they wanted to, because their corners, Lee and Chappell, have been getting burnt. Conventional wisdom will tell you, well, let's stack the box and just see if Florida beats us, which is probably what I would do. And if you're Florida, you got to make those plays down the field. You've got to hit the passes. The issue is when we go on the road, Billy Napier, his playbook is very conservative. It's not aggressive. This is a game where it will have to be aggressive. I think our wide receivers match up very good on these DBs. You're just going to have to you're going to have to try to hit those passes. And I think when you see Texas A&M, who I believe plays a nickel personnel, if you can get the Texas A&M defense thinking Florida is throwing the ball to open up the run, that's where you got them, right where you want them. Now, DJ Lagway hurt again. The sky is blue, DJ Lagway's hurt. I mean, you know those analogies you used to do in like middle school? That's pretty much what that is. Protect DJ Lagway, create some plays where you can actually give the ball to those motion guys. Because the Texas A&M defense, when you watch them against that Notre Dame game, I've watched a couple of highlights. They did bite a little bit, And if you're running the ball from the pocket on read option, you can create some plays. Otherwise, they're a really good defensive line against just a conventional running attack. Um, so there you go. That's what I think one of the keys are. So Auburn and Mississippi State were combined 1 of 23 on third down. They create turnovers, which the game is over very quickly if we turn the ball over in this game. It's going to come down to, at the end of the day, the quarterback battle, I think. I think at the end of this game, the quarterback that has the better game will end up being the team that wins. Um, that's how I think this game goes. Reed is a little bit more big game experience, and he's a true dual threat. Uh, so that may give them the advantage. Um, but I do think that Florida is going to have to hit some passes deep, and that will allow them to control the game. Anyway, no turnovers, throw the ball deep. We'll give ourselves a chance.
One other thing I just want to say, the A&M defense lives off of early negative plays. And so a big key, it's not a specific key, but just a big thing that the Gators need to do is on first down, put yourself in good second, third down positions, and keep them short. Because I on those what is it? You said it was like the 1 out of 23 third downs the past 2 games, which is insane, by the way. I think the average, I read this somewhere, the average yards on those third downs was like 7, and I think 8. It was like 8. It set almost 8 yards on those third downs on average. So they're doing a really good job making it third and long on these deep on these offenses and putting them in bad positions. And when you're playing at Kyle Field in that environment, the 12th man, it gets loud down there, man. And when you have that weird cult, you know what I mean, doing their little whatever, I don't even know what they are. Which we can talk. God, they're such a weird school, dude. They got like what? They don't have I don't think they have cheerleaders. They're just weird. And so, yeah, that's all you see. That's all you see. It's ugly. So, man, I need to stop because we're not in the position to be talking. But I think if we can get in there, quiet the crowd early with some explosive plays like EJ was talking about, we're in a great position. And so I'm just so curious to see what Elko does defensively coming into this game. How if like EJ said, are they going to come? Like, I think both make sense, right? Both schemes make sense logically. Like, do you come in and say, hey EJ or hey DJ, we don't think you can push the ball down the field. You know what I mean? We think the Texas thing was a scam. Can you come into our house and actually get it done? That would make sense, especially since it's worked in previous games. But at the same time, like you were talking about, EJ, this defense has let up explosive plays, especially in the secondary. So do you play more conservative and kind of play Texas's scheme and force Florida to just try to pound the rock on your amazing front seven that's done a really good job containing the run? So I don't know. It's going to be very interesting. I think it's really going to come down to, like you said, obviously DJ Lagway, his play, the play calling from Billy Napier. But I think offensive line for Florida is the big key on this side of the ball. So I'm excited, like just from a scheme standpoint, like what the hell is Mike Elko going to do? Because, bro's cooking up something great. So I'm excited for that. Texas A&M, I believe, is number 5 in the country right now. The AP comes out. The AP's out. So is that the new updated? I think that's the new updated ranking, right?
Yeah.
I think they are number 5. So there we go. I don't know how many top 5 teams we played this year, but this is ridiculous.
This is the third.
Do you have anything else you want to say about this Gator offense first? Oh, let's do our key on that side of the ball. My specific key to the game is 20-plus carries for Jaden Ball. I think if you do 20-plus carries, I think that you can then bring up those safeties, you know what I mean, make Mike Elko get aggressive to stopping the run, take a shot deep.
100% my key to the game as well.
Let's get into that, man. This Florida Gator defense against this Texas A&M offense. EJ, I'll let you kind of take the lead on this one.
Yeah, so our defense is our 2 linebackers, Miles Graham and Robinson, are the 2 highest rated players on the defense. Actually, Devin Moore, believe it or not, is the highest rated overall player, believe it or not. But When you have two linebackers that are in tune every play, meaning if it's a run, they're there to try to stop the run. If it's a pass, they're getting into the quarterback or they're exactly where they need to be to make the over the middle pass difficult. That is a crucial, 100% crucial thing to have when you're playing Texas A&M. Because when you're playing a team that has an offensive line that can just bulldoze over you and they run the ball. Oh, and by the way, when they don't do that, Marcel Reed can just scramble outside the pocket and run around like a chicken with his head cut off. You need linebackers that are in tune. We are going to have to contain, but also get pressure up the middle. You have to get pressure up the middle with your D tackles. I don't know how we do that. Maybe we stunt. Maybe we blitz up, the linebacker up the middle. Uh, Lyons and Barreau and number 33, who had a great game. These guys have to get pressure up the middle. If the pressure comes from the outside and there's no pressure up the middle, and uh, uh, Marcel Reed can just step up into the pocket and then just, smorgasbord of wide open receivers, or I can run. That's where things get a little bit dicey. Auburn actually did a decent job of doing that, which Texas A&M had to exert a lot of energy to score, even though they did move the ball pretty easily on Auburn. That was something that Auburn did decently well. So that's the key to the defense. Also, Woods and Gums. I also like James. He's doing great. These guys have to also create a little havoc so that Tyreek Sapp can get one-on-one. Because I do think Texas A&M, they have a decent offensive line. Not incredible. They're going to focus on Tyreek Sapp and try to take him out of the game, which means these other guys are going to have one-on-one opportunities. You've got to win those battles, get underneath blocks, and you have to sell the hold. When you get held, we have a tendency to continue to fight. If we had Dijon Johnson and Aaron Gates, I'd be really happy with our defensive backs, but they're not out there. So Kermani McLean has to play all the snaps. Denson coming off that edge or the cornerback blitz, very good. Devin Moore, when he's healthy, excellent. Castell and Thornton, our two safeties, also have a very important role. They got beat deep in that one play against Texas. All it takes is one play to lose the game. Do not get beat deep.
That you're so right, EJ, because it's so interesting. Look at this Texas A&M schedule, right? And it's like, okay, they got some big scores, early on. They're playing well, and then you start seeing these past couple games, and it's like, what the hell is going on with this offense? The Mississippi State score is, not exactly like I was talking about earlier. That's not how the game went down. It was a very close game there late, and Texas A&M got a few scores late to make it, look a lot better than what it was. The way to stop this Texas A&M offense is to make them fight down the field. Like you were talking about earlier, EJ, you mentioned it already in your opening statement. Your opening statement was beautiful, dude. You hit every single point. They are not great down to down. Their offense is built around explosive plays. And you can do explosive plays when you have two great running backs, two great receivers, a veteran offensive line with a lot of returning starters, and Marcel Reed, a very dynamic quarterback that can bring up your, because like you said, it's really... It's funny because every single position group on this defense has such an important role. Like, I can't think of one. I mean, if I had to pick one, like you said, it's probably the safeties with Bryce Thornton and Castell. But the linebackers are going to have to really contain Marcel Reed while playing zone and trying to stop these receivers. But yeah, so you don't really got to worry too much about the tight ends and a mismatch there. But I am worried a little bit about Marcel Reed scrambling. We saw us be vulnerable against Arch Manning in the Texas game in moments. And that's something that's really hurt Florida, hurt them last year too. Remember that? Remember last year, dude? Marcel Reed ran for how many? I think he had over 100 yards rushing against us last year in this game. I don't want to think I was at that game. I don't want to remember that. Don't want to relive it. But we could not stop the run in that game. So if I'm Mike Elko and if I'm the offensive coordinator, remember last year what worked? Let's do it again. You know what I mean? The Gator defense isn't any different. So let's rely on the run. They are more pass-oriented this year and have a better pass game. But for this specific game, why not go back to what worked last year? And so I expect them to really get this run game early, EJ, and maybe try to test these safeties a little bit. But I expect them to really get that, solidify that run game early on. But yeah, I'm really happy with how Robinson's playing, like we're talking about. Really happy with Miles Graham. Childs is pretty solid as well. Miles has struggled a little bit in the pass game, but is phenomenal in run defense. I haven't seen a linebacker shed through gaps like this in forever, EJ. Like, I remember the golden years when we had Jared Davis and Alex Anzalone and all those guys, you know what I mean? We're just going to have to really play aggressive against this run game. We're really going to have to contain Marcel Reed here. And stop the big explosive plays, like EJ was saying, because that's what this offense is built off of. It's built off of explosives and Marcel Reed running the football. That's another thing in these games against Auburn and against Mississippi State. The reason that they didn't put up a big amount of points was because Marcel Reed felt very uncomfortable because they were not letting him run the ball all over the place. And also he had to drive the ball down the field, which is why he has been turning over the ball. I'm just saying, keep an eye out for that. He turns the ball over when he has to drive down the field consistently against a defense. And this Florida Gator defense has a lot of momentum right now. They are cocky as hell. They have confidence, man. They just had 2 interceptions this past week. And like some really good picks too, man. There was a couple. I think it was the Castell when he like flew across the field. Like it reminded me of like a I don't know, like a Reggie Nelson. It was beautiful out there, man.
Right, that was a Reggie Nelson pick.
It was, dude. Just like where the hell did he come from, dude? It looked really good, and so I think you're gonna see hopefully that transition here because you're gonna need that. I think turnovers are important in this game, but it's not really the big thing for me. The big key to the game I have is no more than 3 explosive plays for A&M for 20 plus yards. They're probably gonna hit that, but if we can keep them under 3 explosive, especially pass plays that are under 20 yards, or over 20 yards, I think the Gators are in a good position because I think we might be able to score enough offensively if that transitions into this week, transfers over to get the win against Texas A&M at Kyle Field. But that's obviously I don't know if we'll be able to get that done. That's kind of a lot to ask from this defense, especially since I think the offense will be struggling a little bit more in this game. But just that's just my big key to this game, EJ. Is like I said, just control Marcel Reed, contain him in the pocket. Don't let them have explosive plays. And for me, it's no more than 3 20-plus yard, deep shots from this Texas A&M offense.
When you look at last year's game, what were the telling stats? We lost 33-20, but what was the issue? We had 3 interceptions. Okay, Mertz had 1, Lagway had 2. We also got outrushed 310 rushing yards for Texas A&M to 52 for the Gators. If we get up 310 yards rushing in this game, I'm going to skinny dip in the middle of the freaking Atlantic Ocean. Okay? That ain't happening in this game. They're not running for 300 yards. Rob Roberts, and that was back when it was like, well, is it Rob Roberts or Armstrong as the defensive coordinator? We didn't know. Neither did the defense.
Mm-mm.
That's why, they ran for 300. If you can stop them, and so that's the other key, out rushing Texas A&M. That is what we're going to need to do in this game. They ran it 55 times last year. They had more rushing attempts than we had total yards rushing. Insane. So you cannot let them run for 300 yards. And you cannot have 3-0 turnovers. And you cannot go 37 minutes time of possession A&M to 22 for us. 38-22. So that's the key to the game. Control the ball, run it on them, hit them where the sun don't shine with Dallas Wilson. Billy, actually learn clock management and call it good. If you don't know, just stop and turn around and ask someone, don't call a timeout though, because he calls the worst timeouts. Don't call a timeout when we actually need them late in the game. This is a game where you're going to need every timeout. Don't be calling a timeout after the other team call a timeout because I didn't know what the play call was. You're the freaking head coach and you call all the plays. So, no useless timeouts and the rushing statistic. I can almost guarantee you, if we let Texas A&M run for 200, 300 yards on us, I can't see that happen on this defense. Even though I think Texas A&M is like as good as Miami running the ball, but the issue with that game was Miami could stay committed to the run because our offense was so terrible. They were like, oh well, let's just turn around and hand the ball off because they can't score. So if we can score and force them to say, oh well, maybe we shouldn't run the ball. They were up 20-0 at halftime last year. So it's kind of like, well, let's run it until they're freaking, you know, chopped liver. I think this game is going to be close. It just comes down to the rushing statistic and Billy Napier not blundering basic coaching calls. And we're going to have to make a dynamic play somehow. When we have the lead after the first quarter, it's like we're winning every game. Freaking score early, get the momentum, and let's get a big time. Hey, if we didn't win this game, what are we, 3-3? 3-3 with 2 top 10 wins? Who the heck? No one else has that.
Well, I think we'll know literally, like you said, the first couple of drives whether the Gators are going to win this game or not, just by how Texas A&M is playing us and just by how we're playing them. So that's going to be very interesting. And the big question of this game, will what we saw this past week against Texas transition over? That is a big question. Do we trust Billy Napier to do that? I think this game's going to also come down to this Texas A&M offensive line. If we get pressure on Marcel Reed, it's going to be a long day for this A&M offense. And we got a lot of pressure on Texas, but I think this A&M offensive line is much better than Texas's offensive line. And I think they're going to protect him enough to where they're able to move the ball down the field. I think they're going to protect him enough to where I saw enough from yesterday, EJ, because it's like we talked about in the Texas game. Ron Roberts' defense is all about, there's going to be open guys down the field, but our front seven will get to you by the time you're able to see it. I feel like it works when they don't have an offensive line that's, consistent, and I think A&M does. I think because that Marcel Reed will do a good enough job reading the field down the field because he'll have time. I think he's going to make some big plays. I think Texas A&M is going to win this game 20-17. But I think it's going to be a dog fight, and it's going to be very, very close. I just do not trust Billy Napier's offense to be great consistently. I don't. I really don't, EJ. And we can look back on so many one-off games, whether it's the Tennessee game from a few years back. I think that was his first year when he had Richardson. Do you remember Richardson had like 463 yards passing in that? It was something. I didn't know what Billy Napier that was, but we want that all the time. He's spreading the ball out. It was a spread offense. It was an empty set. I don't think that I think he's gonna go back to his old ways. I don't feel comfortable. I'm going 2017 A&M.
Beautiful pick, my friend. I learned a very important thing last week. Pick against our Gators if you think they're going to win, if you want them to win. So I got to pick against them here. And the reason I'm picking against us is we're playing on the road. Billy Napier, well, believe it or not, the only road win in the SEC I believe he has is Mississippi State last year and Texas A&M his first year. But Texas A&M was terrible that year. We won that game. So we actually have won a game at Kyle Field in the last 4 years. But anyway, I'm going to go Texas A&M in this game in a wild game. I think it's gonna look a little bit like the Tennessee game from last year. Back and forth, back and forth. But I just think this is a game where if you're going to go into Kyle Field and win, not only are the players going to have to play, but the coaches are going to have to coach. And I think that's where the game gets a little bit dicey for me in a close game. I think the over under is what, 47 and a half? So you took the under. I'm taking the over. I think it's going to be a crazy, it's going to be like Notre Dame. Give me the Aggies, unfortunately. Hate to say it. I'm going to say 37-34. Wild game. I'm talking the ball hits somebody in the head, bounces up, somebody who wasn't even on the screen catches the ball. I think Florida is going to show some fight. But I think when it comes down to what does it take to win, I just think the intangibles go to A&M in this game at home. And I would love if Florida won. I would love if we won this game. And I would love if they proved me wrong. And hey, maybe we just need to pick against them for them to actually want to play. I just think Elko is going to outcoach Billy, and we're going to have some sort of blunderous play at the beginning of a game, and we're all going to come back and say that's probably going to cost us. So give me Texas A&M 37-34, wild, crazy, up, back and forth game. The Aggies somehow figure out how to win it. They're the luckiest team in the nation. We're the unluckiest team in the nation. So there you go.